The Temple Studio is available for all of your recording, mixing, and mastering needs, whether it's on location or via internet file exchange. Located in the San Fernando Valley, the Temple has 40 physical inputs for live ensemble tracking and a production team with over 30 years of experience. To book time, call 213-840-1770 or email tchadt@me.com. Welcome to the Dive Bar Rockstar Podcast, a show exploring the lives of professional musicians of all types, touring musicians, recording artists, songwriters, engineers, bar bands, wedding bands, and anyone making their living in the music industry. Whether you've dreamed of being a professional or you already are one, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Eric Baines, and I hope that you not only find some entertainment here, but also some helpful tips, trade secrets, and ideas that will help you achieve your dreams. Today is a really important day. We have an amazing guest. Can't wait to get to it. He's a drummer, and you've already heard him. He's the drummer on the opening track of this particular show called Dive Bar Rockstar on my album from 2008 called Dive Bar Rockstar. He's amazing. Drum Magazine has him on a list of 53 heavyweight drummers who made a difference in the 90s. They also, in 2002, awarded him a Drummy Award for Best Big Band Drummer, and Modern Drummer Magazine in 1999 called him the Best Big Band Drummer. His credits include Brian Setzer Orchestra. He's on Jump, Jive, and Wail. You might know that song. Gordon Goodwin's Phat Band, Big Bag Voodoo Daddy, Maynard Ferguson, Robbie Williams, Robin Ford, Leanne Rimes, Brian Wilson, Keiko Matsui, Garrison Keillor, Freddie Revell, Greg Karukas, Andy Sumbers, Cecilia Noel. He's a big-time movie guy. He records on a lot of movie soundtracks like Star Wars, Planet of the Apes, Jersey Boys, The Bourne Supremacy, Incredibles 2, Jurassic World, Superman, Man of Steel, Mission Impossible 3, Star Trek, Superman vs. Batman, and also on TV shows like The Cleveland Show, Family Guy, Frasier, It's Gary Shandling's Show, King of the Hill, Murder, She Wrote, Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, The Simpsons, The Sopranos, American Comedy Awards, American Music Awards, Emmy Awards, the Golden Globes. And beyond all that, he also has an incredible big band of his own called the BBB, featuring Bernie Dresel. So please enjoy this conversation with Bernie Dresel. So I watched your percussion show last night.
Oh,
that was quite cool.
Crazy.
I felt like I was on an acid trip.
Right. Someone looked like the lighting looked like a bad horror film or something. Because it's very dark. They do something called Unusual Tuesdays there, where I don't know if you watch all of it, but at 30 minutes in, a guy with a huge mask, they do a whole show of that, of a whole bunch of people with those masks.
No, that was
I wanted to put one on. I just never got around to it.
Yeah, and the robe too.
Because we're supposed to wear masks. So
right, exactly.
So people know, they didn't see it yet. It's these masks are like 3 feet tall,
huge, massive.
Yeah, with a little mouth thing that moves.
Yeah, it was very cool. It reminded me of like in college we used to get a practice room and check it out for like 4 hours, and they have these overhead projectors in them, and we turn on all the lights except the overhead and just play nonstop for like 3-4 hours, without even talking to each other. That it had that same kind of vibe of just you guys jam. I mean, obviously it was all notated and you were doing pieces.
Yeah, there were, I don't know, maybe in the 75 minutes there was about 6 pieces written out that were probably, if the head or whatever you want to call it, the piece was maybe a minute long. So that meant of the 75 minutes, 6 minutes was written.
Oh, wow.
And then it's, then everything else, we're just making that shit up. And we haven't done it a lot. Brad, we're talking about Brad Deuce on percussion, myself on drum set, where, we played together a lot, like you and I have over the past 30 years, but not a lot recently. And so this was getting back together again and just basically jamming. Let's see what we want to do. And Brad's crazy. And, he's got the hugest ears probably of any musician I know. I mean, a lot of great musicians that we get to play with, but his ear, he is like ready to pounce on anything you might play and listen and react, more than anyone, more than me. He's, phenomenal that way. So it's real easy for us to like play like we're playing together because he's so special in that way.
Wow.
But and we didn't have any chordal thing. He would play that metallic marimba on the ground. Slate marimba it's called. And
cool.
So, and he's a composer where his compositions are very 12-tone row, 8-tonal or whatever,
Wow.
So it could be considered hard to listen to by some, but it becomes what you do with it and how you perform it. Yeah.
Right.
It's how you sell it,
Yeah. Well, I thought it was great. It was cool.
Thanks for watching.
It'd be a cool thing to have on the background, it's just like mood stuff. Cause you guys were never super loud really. It was all kind of it was a very dynamic, vibey kind of thing. It was cool.
Well, that's interesting. How many times have we been told, the drummer is loud, or Bernie, you're loud, because the drum set, especially more modern drums than the vintage drums of the 50s, they're louder now, compared to older instruments. And sometimes on a gig, I might play loud because it's appropriate, or the room or whatever. But I was watching the comment section later from our 75-minute, and some people are going, turn it up, or it's not loud enough.
Interesting.
Someone made but we played soft a lot, that we have this low level thing, and then our high end was loud. But a lot of modern recordings don't have that wide of a dynamic range from soft to loud.
Right.
That, people listen to music in the car or whatever, it has to get over the engine sound, or they're listening from their phone speaker or iPad speaker, not headphones. And so they're not used to those softs.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow.
So there was a lot of comments, turn it up. And finally people put their headphones in or realized, oh, I see, that's supposed to be soft there. It's not like this one dynamic range of mezzo forte to forte.
Right.
So
it's not all solo volume.
Yeah. But it's interesting too about that. When I mix my album, I have a band now, the BBB featuring Bernie Dresel, big band. And so I'm a producer now. I produce my records,
Right.
So suddenly I'm looking at, compression, how much, because so many records want to be loud or make sure it's loud enough. And they're, the overall mix is compressed. Is that what you would say?
Yeah.
Right. So we were careful because we were an audiophile thing and trying to retain dynamics and jazz dynamics of softs and loud, not to compress too much, which means we don't have a loud record like a lot of records are loud because they're pushing that top end and staying up there a lot.
Yeah.
It's
sort of the thing now, the loudness wars. How loud you get your record.
So we went against that grain for Bern, the studio album, and Live and Bernin, the live album, and didn't do that heavy a compression. I mean, we did a little bit just because you got to do a little bit to smooth out the peaks.
Right.
But and then you find yourself as I listen to it or put it on. I listen to my album every day. You find us like, oh, I got to turn it up compared to some other people's albums.
Right.
But so I turn it up. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's musical and it's dynamic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of that,
so what do you want? What do you want to ask me, Eric?
Well, you have become pretty much the predominant big band drummer in the country. According to Modern Drummer, they called you the best big band drummer. And so have you always had a passion for big band? Like even when you were a kid, was this always your thing?
It's funny because I think I've always played with large ensembles, big band or not, or trios. It's hard for me to find that middle 6-piece band thing, where I put together Bern, my funk band, 12 people, more of a, and I even hate calling it my band. I was trying to have it be a co-op per se. And it was to a point, but there's a point where everyone kind of looks to, okay, tell us what to do, and you do need that leader. But my big band now, the BBB, featuring Bernie Dresel, is 16 people, 16 musicians, 16 men and women.
Wow.
In the big band, or I've played in, with Brian Setzer Orchestra or Goodwin Big Phat Band. Those are big bands, totally all different from each other, but they're large bands with like 13 horns. Or I've played with Brian Setzer Trio, or my band in high school, Starbreaker, was a trio.
Oh, wow, interesting. Gotcha.
You like that name, Starbreaker?
Yeah, it was probably great in the 70s.
Well, there was an album, I think, by Deep Purple, although we were not Deep Purple, called Stormbringer. So we were trying to change. Okay, how about Starbringer? Okay, Stormbreaker. Oh yeah, Stormbreaker, Starbreaker. Genius. So, but yeah, I put, it all starts when I'm 2 years old when Beatles are on Ed Sullivan, and that's always how some of these interviews start. Like, where is your first inspiration? Mm-hmm. And it was the Beatles. And when I'm 2 years old on Ed Sullivan, girls screaming, although you don't know why they're screaming when you're 2, But I knew they were good. And more than that, the audience was enjoying it. They were enjoying it. That looks like fun, and they're good. It also came... that February '64 came 4 months after Kennedy was assassinated.
Wow.
And believe it or not, I remember that. And I'm literally exactly 2 years old in November when he's assassinated. But I remember, I got to make sure I don't cry here. It'd be your first interview where you get someone to cry.
Well, I am the Barbara Walters of podcasts, they've told me.
I remember my parents being sad, and I'm looking at our black and white television, and I'm kind of sensing what's going on, and they're saying, well, there's a film clip of Kennedy speaking, but he's already gone. And they're going, he died. And I didn't get it because there he is on the television. How can he be dead? Yeah, I don't even know what death means, really. That means not here anymore, Bernie, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I'm going, he's there. I don't get it. But I did sense immense sadness.
Yeah.
And then this immense euphoria on Ed Sullivan of the Beatles. So that was big in so many ways. So, I'd be jumping around pretending to be Elvis with a fake guitar. I'd be pounding on garbage cans in the backyard. I'm talking 3 years old.
Wow.
Singing, Hound Dog or a Beatles tune. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't big band yet. So your question of big band,
right?
I'm taking drum lessons when I'm 4.5. Actually, a real formal lessons on the pad. Sticks on a pad that looked like, well, no one's going to see it, but you can see it.
Yeah.
It's like that, a rubber pad and that diagonal.
Actually, I have my
beer. Have one?
I have my beer sitting on one right now because I keep it on the desk all the time.
But your pad is flat.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They used to be like this, Eric. See, you're so young. Yeah. And that's because everyone except for Ringo, had their drums angled like that, like I do now. And you go, what are you doing, Bernie, for traditional grip? Anyway, so I was playing drums, snare drum, and fooling around some drum set. And then I was told about Buddy Rich going to be on TV when I was 8.5. And I got the album Buddy Rich Live at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Have you played there?
Yes,
you have.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that's crazy.
Yeah. I think Van Halen played there too, right?
Yeah, Metallica. And I was super forget it. The list is Led Zeppelin. Wow.
Meaning he was doing all funky 2 and 4 swingy pop, not pop, but jazz big band, but with backbeat.
Wow.
But they did it from the Whiskey A Go-Go. Anyway, that was my first album. Gordon Goodwin goes, "Oh, great, Bernie. Your first album was the worst Buddy Rich album ever." Right. But so that got me into, wow, listen to that wall of sound with 13 horns. And of course, Buddy Rich tearing it up drum wise, not just, he's known so much for his, other than the the tapes,
The
you
tape
know.
with him
But
yelling at his band. Right.
yeah, they needed it. They need to be yelled at, though.
Well,
Really,
they're
don't you
just
think?
they're dumb kids. Dumb kids. They needed to be
you
schooled.
know, like an impulse, how we get yelled at.
Right.
So, but he's known for his technical prowess, his chops.
Right.
But me as a kid, yes, you see that. But what I got from him was that immense drive and kicking the band in its ass,
Right.
and driving this music. And
For
so
sure.
between the Beatles pop and the great arrangements and songs and singing, and Ringo's underappreciated drumming maybe at the time. I think we appreciate it way more now that he played for the songs. And
yes, exactly.
I think Jeff Emmerich said, well, people ask me, is Ringo any good? And he said, okay, listen to any Beatles song, and is there any song you listen to where you go, too bad about those drums on that song? You can't say that about any of the tunes. It all worked, whether he's coming up with the part or he's being told what to play. He played it, and it was great. So,
and I feel like anybody that kind of older generation, like they're always like, oh, he was just a session player, as if that's a put down. Like people that aren't musicians but think about Ringo, we're like, oh, he was the worst guy in the band. But he was just he's melodic almost with his playing, and like his interesting drum parts. It was never normal. It was very much him. It had personality. It was cool. I'm a huge
and his sense of groove and swing. I mean, there was a guy in the band before him that got ousted. Pete Best. Poor guy. Right on the brink of that, and then you're out of here.
Yeah, and way better looking drummer.
Well, that's a problem. It's for him and for me with some bands.
Yeah,
being so good looking.
You told me a story once of being in England and knocking on Pete Best's door.
Yeah, we the Casbah where the Beatles played. Even before the Cavern Club in Liverpool, they were playing in Hayman's Green, which is I'm a geek, Beatle. I know the area.
I'm baiting
and
I love it.
and this huge house that Pete's mom owned, Mona Best, where they turned the cellar into a club, but like a coffee club for youths that weren't drinking. Well, weren't drinking there, at least, probably.
Right.
but they would have a membership, to come in. I mean, it's a basement, low ceiling, and they would play down there. So we're going around Liverpool looking at all the Mecca of the Beatles sites, and his house and her house was not that close. You had to make a little trek out to get to it. So we did. Knocked on the door.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here to see Pete Best. Just a minute. And so the caretaker of the home or something, I don't know, opened the door and said, okay, come on in, Right. Here, we're here with Brian Setzer. I think it was me and the bass player. Of course, drummers and bass players hang out, right?
Right.
Mark Winchester. And, well, he's not here right now. He's rehearsing, and, there's a little poster there of the Beatles with Pete in the band, not vintage, but the poster.
Right.
And so got in there. But recently, Vicky, that was it. And then we left because it wasn't really open. It was their home. It wasn't a place. But now they've opened up where they redid the basement just like it was. And they do little tours there that Vicky and I went when we were in Liverpool. I don't know how long ago it is. A couple years now? I don't know. A year. Time's passed. How long ago? 2 years, she says. 2 years ago. Yeah. Where we got into the Casbah, it was called, that club downstairs.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So you played with Maynard Ferguson for a bit too, right?
Yes. When
cool?
you play with different people, like sometimes it could last 15 years, like Brian Setzer, Gordon Goodwin, Keiko Matsui, 7 years straight, and then off and on here and there. Right. But Maynard I did 7 weeks, I believe it was. I get confused, 7 or 9.
Oh, got you.
But 1986.
Sure.
So, unlike some guys that did it for 3 years or 4 years or whatever, I did 9 weeks. And the reason I stopped after that was because I got the opportunity to do a television series in Los Angeles. So, wow, session player, record,
Right.
LA studio. And so I thought, I got to be here for that, not be on the road now.
Right.
So, and when I play with Maynard, it was just Maynard and Dennis de Blasio, sax player and flute, who lives in Philadelphia now. Maynard and Dennis on horns, and then 5 rhythm.
Oh,
Let's see if I got it. Bob Wackerman was bass, Michael Higgins guitar, Todd Carlin keyboards, and Steve Fisher on percussion, and myself. And we even had lighted drumsticks for the drum percussion duet solo.
Wow.
Not my idea. Part of the shtick.
Right.
Where you had to make sure you were waving it in time to the percussionist and drummer as the lights would go down.
That was very hip.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to be super pop. So that's what brought you to LA then? Was the session?
Well, 86 is when I did Maynard, and the Our House was the television show with Wilfred Brimley and Deidre Hall and Shannon Doherty, and Joel McNeely was the composer. But I had already been in LA 3 years, so what brought me to LA is I left Rochester, New York, college, and went, okay, where am I going to move? New York City, LA, Nashville, Dallas, Chicago, and I picked LA, and even though I'd never been here, I just thought, I've been in snowy weather, de-icing the windows all my life. And I thought, that sounds good. Good weather. And a very close bass player, again, bass player connection, was already living here maybe a year before I got here, Rick Shaw.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, there's one guy that I know stronger than the horn guys I knew that moved to New York City. Rhythm section connection, better weather. I felt safer at the time, maybe, than walking around New York City at the time, 1983.
Yeah, definitely.
So I went, let's go there.
That's cool.
And, did the car ride out to Los Angeles. So that's what brought me out, was just the decision. And then once I got here, from playing in Orange County at some clubs with Eric Marienthal, Gordon Goodwin, Bob Wackerman, etc., and Michael Higgins, the Martin brothers, that I made the connection of the guys that were on the band with Maynard. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
That's what led me to Maynard, and
Gotcha. Yeah. That's cool. And you went to Eastman School of Music.
Yes.
In Rochester.
Which is
super cool.
Really it's part of the University of Rochester, but I don't know if Juilliard is part of another school, but it's considered kind of like one of those Eastman School or Juilliard,
So what are you doing?
It was cool. I loved it there. It was a very warm atmosphere of all the musicians, students loving each other, I would say. Competitive in a good way, not a cutthroat way. It was not very good. And a good music town, Rochester.
And were you doing orchestra percussion as well as like drum set, or is it kind of a legit school where you've got to do everything, or could you just focus on drum set? Yeah,
it was definitely a legit school. However, there was classical degrees. Your bachelor degree in performance would be for orchestral percussion.
Got you.
However, I went, man, I'm good in some ways, but I'm not a burning mallet player, marimba. I can play it, but man, the other guys in my class, like Patsy Dash, who's in the Chicago Symphony now, Chris Norton, Billy Miller, these guys are burning mallet players. But I went in as a music ed major. Thought maybe they need that. And it was something my parents and I like teaching. I thought good to have that part of the degree. I enjoy it. And It probably actually got me into the classical, because they needed to have music ed majors too. Plus, they needed to have some drum set players. So even on my audition for Eastman, even though it wasn't part of the degree program, John Beck, the teacher, said, you play drum set. Let's hear you play a little drum set. Oh, okay. So he's a drum set player too. All that added up to me like maybe wild card getting in. I don't know.
Wow.
So, but once I was there, I did music ed, I did classical, and there was no undergrad jazz program at the time. Now, so many schools, North Texas might have been early on in doing it, and Miami, where my brother Jonathan went to Miami. He's the drummer on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
Right.
6 years younger than me, not as good looking, a little bit taller, so at the time, all of us undergrads were involved in the jazz program because they did have a master's degree jazz program, but not enough musicians to fill out the whole program. So, meaning with players for the big bands, etc. So we would all do all that stuff off of our degree.
Got you.
Play recitals, do ensembles, even though it wasn't part of the degree program. So I was busy between practicing marimba, timpani, orchestral snare drum, orchestral triangle, music ed classes, student teaching my last year, playing live gigs in Rochester, and then doing all the jazz program stuff, including playing people's recitals. I was busy for 4 years.
Yeah, that sounds like it. And do you think that was vital to the career that you have? There's a lot of debate over whether college right now is, if you're going to come out, owing $100,000 and, you're going to be a musician, and how do you make that back? And but I'm always sort of on the side of like, education is still super important beyond just getting a job, but just to make you a more well-rounded player. And how do you think that's been important to your career, having a degree?
It really has, in that it exposed me to a lot of different things. So a cookie jar of different possibilities, like even being in town there playing gigs. We're playing at the time some Donna Summers tunes and, on the club gig or whatever. And so just everything involved, but meaning, because I wouldn't have got that gig if I wasn't in the school too, because it was some school guys working with a local band leader that was a music educator too. But I get that, like even my daughters, I go, man, I don't know if they need to go, college. It's not about paying for it, which is costly. Yeah.
Right.
But like, okay, is this going to lead to work?
Mm-hmm.
But they've taken some different paths, and one of my daughters is even kind of going back and doing some classes. And when she was ready to really go, what do I really want to do? And more focused. Reading, getting my reading together, even, I was a reader since, again, I was 4.5 taking lessons, but even more so, and being able to play orchestral percussion.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be some great drum set players in Los Angeles, but also the combination of guys that can go out into the section and play orchestral snare drum on a Star Wars movie, or Planet of the Apes that doesn't have any drum set. You're out in the section, like just having that, or following a conductor, or playing a xylophone part if you need to, or if they need you to, or hand per congas, or so. It all adds up to me for being like drum set orchestral guy, both. But live, people know me as a drum set player because of all the live things I've traveled with, whether it was Setzer or Gordon Goodwin, or just gigs around town. But in the studio, I'm more hidden doing orchestral stuff too.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
So Gordon Goodwin's Phat Band, 6 Grammy nominations, 2 Grammy wins. Pretty awesome band. I listened to at least 2 of the records today because it's super contemporary, yet it's big band, and the guy is just a crazy composer. So good. Mm-hmm. Did that start as like a session situation, or
no, live gigs, some live gigs?
Got you.
And indirectly, when I first moved here, I started playing in a top 40 band with Rick Shaw. There's that Rick Shaw name again, the bass
I got to
player.
get him on the show.
Yeah. He played with Johnny Mathis for many years, and we played with the Letterman together on the road when I first came out here.
Very cool.
But and Rick and I played a lot in rhythm sections at Eastman. We were like kind of like the team or whatever of us. What was I going to get at? Oh yeah, another sip of wine.
It is called the Dive Bar Rockstar podcast.
Before I moved to the Red Breast 15-year Irish whiskey.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I wish I was a whiskey guy.
It's good.
I'm not a whiskey guy. I've tried, but I just can't. I can't. I just stick to the Jägermeister and.
I know you're Jaeger. You're Jaeger. Yeah. I had Jaeger when I was in Hamburg. That's the most I've had it with Dennis Moody. He was there at the time, and we got into the Kaiser Keller where the Beatles played.
Yeah.
But like we're there, we're outside of it. It's locked up during the day. Roger Bern was with us too. He was playing piano with Setzer then.
Huh.
And like I knock on the door, oh gosh, it's closed. I'd love to get in there. All right, here it is. The door opens.
Wow.
Janitor. Oh, we'd like to. We're musicians, with Brian Setzer. We'd like to kind of come see the Kaiser Keller. Right. Oh, we're closed right now. So I reach in my pocket, pull out 20 marks. I remember 20 marks. I don't remember how much money that is. Maybe it was $10, $20. I don't know.
Right.
Here, I got 20 marks here. Suddenly, come on in. So we're in the Kaiser Club. Oh my gosh, we're in here. And we're on the stage where they stomped and broke the stage and looking there. And I see the stage. It's a little ratty. And I see like kind of a spot, and I reached over and I broke off a piece of the stage and took it with me.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, come on, the Beatles, they broke it. They stomping on it.
No, that's incredible. Yeah. Hey, I love that you're such a Beatles fan. It's so cool.
Now, how do we get on this? Oh, Gordon Goodwin.
Yeah.
So I'm playing in the top 40 band with Charlie Otwell, keyboardist that wrote tunes, one of the first piano players with Pancho Sanchez's group.
Oh, wow.
He's in top 40 band with me, Rick Shaw, Bob Soma on guitar. Am I missing anyone? Rick Shaw. But the one who am I missing? The singer, Lisa Burns. Lisa Burns. All right. She's the singer. She ended up marrying Gordon Goodwin years later. So as he put the band together, he's going, who should I get for drums and bass? And Lisa goes, well, what about Bernie Dresel and Rick Shaw? He's like, I don't know who those are. Who are they? Oh, they're great. I should check them out. So actually through Lisa, she introduced Rick and I to playing with Gordon. And we ended up doing the Phat band, Rick and I both, for 15 years.
Wow.
And we both don't do it now, but yeah.
Right.
So the top 40 gig from 16 years earlier, 15 years earlier, eventually led to playing with Gordon Goodwin.
Was Brian Setzer before that or?
Yeah, Brian's
all in there somewhere.
So 83, I moved to LA. 84, I'm playing with Night Sprite with Lisa Burns, Lisa Burns Goodwin. And then Maynard's 86 for 9 weeks. Keiko is overlapping like 1990 to 97, like the smooth jazz world of me playing with the Rippingtons a little bit and different Kilauea, some different bands, different artists of smooth jazz, like consistently. And, Brian Setzer was through the sax player of Keiko Matsui. Did you ever meet him? Mike Acosta.
Mike Acosta, yes. Yeah, I played casuals with him.
Did you ever play with Keiko with him?
No. I came a lot later.
So he was the sax player. And so I was playing with Mike a while. So Mike Acosta lived on the same street in LA in Santa Monica as Brian Setzer. They would have jazz jam sessions.
Oh, cool.
Now, I never got invited, but they did have them. And then Brian walked by and heard them playing, some bebop, and peeked in and goes, hey, can I sit in? And Mike and the guys are, sure, go get your guitar. snicker, snicker, nudge, nudge. This rock guy gonna try to play tunes with us. He goes, gets his guitar and burns it up. He's a great player and great ears. And I guess it went like Brian said, yeah, I'm thinking of putting a big band together. Would you want to help me, Mike? Sure. So Mike called me to play drums with Brian Setzer. And I said, I can't do it. I'm playing at La Vallée with Freddie Ravel.
Right. Another person we've played together on.
Yeah. So, meaning right then it was just a big band gig, which is, it's great if you're not working. I'd love to go play with Brian Setzer, even though I didn't know his music that well or the Stray Cats that well.
Right.
But I was already working. I didn't want to bail on my gig. But so Dave Dirge did the 2 gigs they had booked.
Oh, interesting.
I guess at the Roxy and somewhere else. And so after they did those 2 gigs, Brian said, so Mike, you were mentioning this other drummer you originally wanted. Let's try him. So the next 2 gigs I was hired for. And then Brian liked what I brought to the table. And that started the 15 years with them.
Wow.
But it's interesting because Dave Dirge is a great drummer.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm going, why is he calling me now? He just used him for 2 gigs. And I didn't know the Stray Cats that well. So I go, I better listen to the Stray Cats and get inside that and see, because that's where Brian has lived.
Right.
Even though this is a quote unquote big band gig.
Right.
So after listening to Stray Cats and knowing Dave and his great playing, I'm thinking, I bet you he played it like a big band drummer. It's a big band, and he played it jazzy. And Brian is not jazzy. He has jazz undertones, but it's more Elvis Presley 50s. And so I go, let me blend what Brian knows, the Stray Cats, 50s swing rockabilly, with 1940s Krupa, since there's horn guys there. And that's how I approached it, meaning 4 on the floor heavy, not feathering lightly like a big band drummer would do with Count Basie.
Right.
Heavier, stronger, like 40s, and like dance. Right. And mix that with like Elvis and Krupa. And Brian liked it. So, and even from there, I started rocking it out even more later, and so did Brian, because Brian was being a little polite at first with the guitar, being a little more Freddie Green, Count Basie, hey, there's 13 horns here. And then he realized as we played gigs and we'd rock out on like the Clash tune, what tune was it? I'm bad with tune titles, but it was a rocker straight 8th, and he's really rocking the guitar, and the audience going nuts with the horns. He's going, I'm allowed to be who I am. Right. And he started being more Brian, and that became more successful, especially with adding the slap rockabilly bass. Yeah. Which wasn't there at first, with just regular upright bass, but not slapping. Mm-hmm. And that was like full circle back to the Stray Cats meets and 50s rockabilly, even with slap bass meets 40s swing. I think that's what happened.
Well, those are all my questions. No, that's what I was like. As you listen to it, I feel like you invented a whole other style. Obviously, you picked from all these things, but it was such a unique thing that only you kind of do. Now you're that guy that invented that thing. That's a pretty big contribution to music, I think. Do you feel like you did something important?
Yeah, we all steal from other things, right? So. Right. The Beatles would steal from other people, whether it's Carl Perkins or what, what is his name? He just passed away. Tutti Frutti.
Yeah, Little Richard.
Little Richard, Paul's, stealing the woo from Little Richard, and then they put their own stamp on it and twist it. So, Setzer, with my drumming, I tried to blend, and not all of it at first, but it gradually morphed into blending Krupa with 50s DJ Fontana, Elvis's drummer, with 60s beat Ringo's groove, heavier, and with unabashed wildness of Keith Moon. Meaning, you go,
Nice.
someone might go, you don't sound like Keith Moon there. But what I'm saying is that spirit of
Right.
anything goes,
Mm-hmm.
and that created a hybrid. Yeah.
Wow. And how is Brian to work with? Is he a guy who hangs with the band? Did you talk about all this stuff, or did you just do stuff and then he's like, okay, good. See you later. See you on the next gig.
Brian was he's a strong leader in that he knows he's the boss.
Uh-huh.
There's a strength in that. However, like the first 4 years, 92 to 6 years, until to 96, 4 years, my hair was long. It was over my shoulder. I had the cymbals way up in the air, and it looked fusion-y drum set, and I had a Muppet hair, and he never said, Bernie, you better cut your hair. He never said that. And eventually I went, me and the keyboard player were going, we have long hair. We should get with the program and do more of a pompadour.
Uh-huh.
He never asked us to. And it just, so we did it, got haircut. And then he wore these black glasses like I wore on a thing with Bryan Adams.
Kind of buddy.
I never saw him wear the glasses. And then I go, oh, those look cool. And then he stopped wearing them. Like he never wears, maybe he has contacts. I don't know. Or he got his eyes fixed.
Uh-huh.
And I went, oh, he doesn't have the black glasses. I can do that now. So right as Dirty Boogie and hit and Jump Jive and Wail, I got these black glasses I've had since 1998, meaning this style.
Mm-hmm.
What are we at now? That's 22 years ago.
Wow.
And I got them and got the double bass drum kit at the old school, like Louis Belson, Marine Pearl kind of thing. And rather than a single bass drum. But the glasses, and there we are in Leno. He looks up at me, he goes, Bernie, you've arrived. He didn't tell me it was just a thing. Like I took his lead of what he would do and they go, I think that fits. And I was conscious not to get black glasses if he had them.
Right.
Like I didn't dye my hair blonde because he had that, so some things like that. So he kind of let me do what I do and just find my own way because he trusted me, I think, and appreciated my time, Phil, etc. But but he had, and it just kind of morphed into, we realized like we followed his lead, almost him telling us,
right?
Like the horns start doing all these movements with back and forth, like they would do in the 40s.
Mm-hmm. And
I think they did it as a gag at first. And then as soon as you do that and it looks good, of course, the manager goes, yes, keep doing that.
Right.
That's in the show. And they're going, uh-oh, we just created a shtick. Yeah. But it worked, and it really made a difference of then, because there was originally thoughts of, that they could pick up horn players in every town, some traveling act might do and bring a rhythm section. But Brian didn't want that. He wanted a band. Right. And you could go, what's the difference make on the third and fourth trumpet? Well, it makes a difference, that it's not just reading it. You're spending the afternoon rehearsing it for the first time with people.
Yeah.
But more than that, it was able to have some onstage antics and shtick and feel like a band on stage, that had a thing, and things morphed. It's not just all at once.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm a dive bar rockstar.
I'd like to take a second to thank you for listening to the Dive Bar Rockstar podcast. As a new podcast, getting the word out is a vital part of what it takes to keep the show on the road, or off the road, as the current case may be. If you would like to support the podcast, all you got to do is subscribe wherever you listen. And if you have an extra minute or two, please leave a review. You can also share and follow the podcast on your social media apps. Okay, enough begging. I hope you're having fun, and once again, thank you for listening. It's funny that you mentioned Freddie Ravel and Lava Lee, because I think the first time I saw you play was with Freddie Ravel, And I knew that you had played with Brian Setzer, but I walk in and I didn't expect the full-on rockabilly look. And Freddie Ravel's like a Latin pop, Latin gig, and your Latin chops are second to none. That's some of my favorite stuff to play with you, and you're just killing it on this Latin stuff, looking like a rockabilly guy. And did that affect, like, when you dove into the look like that, did that affect some of the gigs that you got after that?
As far as Latin music, from the country Latinia.
I believe it's Latinia.
It really is in my Polish blood from way back.
It's pretty bizarre. That, I don't know.
No, I don't think anyone looked at me. It takes a second to hear anyone play and go, no matter what color you are, what your hairstyle you are, what sex you are, as soon as you start playing, as musicians, suddenly nothing matters except what you're hearing and feeling of the guy or gal you're playing with. So,
right.
No, I don't think it ever hurt me, to be in the wrong situation. However, there is more maybe of a prejudice and that's awfully strong word right now, or that if you play a certain style, like say you're playing, like say you're Neil Peart playing with Rush, and Neil shows up to a jazz trio gig,
right?
I think the jazz players might go, before he even plays a note. I don't know if this is the right guy, because they've heard him play another style.
Right.
Or he's not one of us in our genre. There could be, it depends on the person. And probably now, as more and more younger people come up, there's probably more realization that musicians play different styles more than ever. And that was something I always concentrated on from my dad, who was a milkman. Number 2, he was a barber. Number 3, he was a bartender. He worked his ass off playing, doing different gigs, working 16-hour days sometimes.
Wow.
To put food on our table and send me and Jonathan to, great music schools, or, and it was just in his blood to be a worker and to really, do it. But he didn't just do one job, even though he was one of the jobs, the milkman, driving the truck for a dairy was 40 hours a week or more. And then he added more on top of that. So, that's me. I get that from my dad, of almost a workaholic. Although right now, not much work, Eric.
Right. No work at all, right?
This is, there's some, but it's depressing. And then there's hope. And then there's practicing. Then there's drinking.
Yes.
Then there's,
sleeping
treadmill, sleeping in. I haven't gained any weight. I've lost a little weight on this.
Oh, you're lucky.
Like, as you can tell here. Can you tell?
You're looking
I'm showing
good,
them just my face. Because but it's not moving around enough to go on, walking across the lot at Fox or Warner Brothers. It's like walking on a treadmill and trying to force the issue.
Yeah.
And eating, trying to eat healthy at home, as opposed, to other ways, Right. So, how did I get on that?
It's all good, man.
I go off on tangent.
It's all good. Let's talk about you as a session player, because you do a ton of movies, and you're one of the top guys as well at that. Like, what was your first movie session?
Ooh. Well, does porn count? No, just kidding.
Absolutely. Does porn count? No, of course, porn counts.
I've never done a porn film, either music or on screen.
Yeah, I've always said I'd be good at it, but I'm just not talented enough in the you're born into porn. You can't just decide.
Are you talking about your bass playing?
Yeah, exactly. My bass playing isn't large enough.
I always thought you had a big bottom end, though. You know, when you say movie, so there's TV, which is Our House. Although in Rochester, I did
Got
some
you.
French film, you know, where it wasn't it was the college band playing for one of the guys that had connection to a French film. But that doesn't count as far as Hollywood, and I'm working as a session. That's from school.
Right.
And probably I did a movie, but it might have been TV movie for Larry Rosenthal, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was at Fox, and I was on percussion.
Got you.
I do remember this. So when I did Our House, I was on percussion.
Oh, interesting.
Like every session until finally, okay, this, you know, there's 13 episodes a season, maybe 26 in a year, something like that.
Mhm.
Finally, maybe seventh episode in. Oh, there's drum set on this, and I'm going, this is where I shine.
Right.
This is my big chance. So I get there. Okay, here's the cue. You get 8 clicks up front. Click, 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 click. Boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, da, ah. Thank you. All right, back over to timpani.
Right.
Oh, all right. That's not going to impress anybody.
Right.
Meaning, I didn't destroy my career,
Right.
but that's not going to be, we've got to have that guy.
Right. But, you know, you played to the song. You did what was appropriate, you know, and sometimes that's what it is, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't a point, look at me. So, you know, or a whole session of like, I think I got to do Scooby-Doo early on, like a remake of an episode or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on drum set the whole thing, and it was, you know, playing. And I thought, okay, this is cool, you know. All right, then the phone doesn't ring for a session for 2 months. Not because I didn't play well. It's just other people were getting calls, and it takes time to like work your way up the ladder or whatever.
Right.
So, movie. I remember doing a movie called The Pickup Artist. It was with Molly Ringwald and I can't think of his name. Famous guy.
Yeah. I know that.
Warren Beatty.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, and so again, hardly any drumming, but I had to program a cue. Ah, boy.
Oh, interesting.
All right, get my rack in there with the Lindrum and some sounds, and make it sound like the Beastie Boys. Some backward sounds. And like, okay, oh boy, all right, I hope the electronics work right, you know. So again, it worked, it sounded good, and that was an early thing. But you know, I'm lucky enough now to work with Michael Giacchino on a lot of movies, and he's prolific with the amount of films he gets to do. You know, we just did not too long ago The Incredibles 2, so that was a lot of drumming, you know, on that, and Wayne Bergeron killing it on lead trumpet, and Gordon Goodwin even doing some orchestrations, you know, for that, you know, really important orchestrations. But Michael's a composer.
Well, I do want to dispel, or I do want to talk about a myth. Maybe it's a rumor. I don't know. But I really want to ask you a very special question that everyone seems to be it's a big secret, apparently. I don't know. Did you play the drums on the movie Whiplash?
That's a good question. I think it's not really known who did.
Really?
Because I see it's not credited, and they don't say who it is. But I know they've answered the question, like the director. They've done some Q&As and stuff, and they say that the drummer on screen, the actor, gosh, what's his name now? I can't believe I can't remember it.
Miles Teller.
Oh yeah, Miles Teller. Everyone remembers the guy that won the Academy Award as the evil teacher, you know, more
J.K.
in
Simmons.
a way,
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
But they say to him, every 90% or 95% of what you see on the screen is Miles Teller playing the drums. So that's what they say. It's hard to believe he's playing the drums as an actor, because I did give him a lesson. And man, they did a good job with that movie. Miles, and the one lesson I gave him before it was a low budget film, and they didn't have like tons of money to have me teaching them all the time.
Right.
I think the director of the film was a drummer also, so I think he helped him a lot. And one of the other actors actually played the drums and probably helped him a lot. But they really filmed it to look like he's playing everything. But from the one lesson I gave him, he, he owned a set of drums.
Right.
And he was not really competent. He's an actor. He's doing that mostly.
Right.
He's not a full-time drummer to play like that. So, however, they did somehow through the film company, they have recently asked me to play it live. So I was supposed to go in May to South Korea to play Whiplash live, like the film at the Seoul Jazz Festival in South Korea in May. We should have done it already, but because of coronavirus, it got canceled. They've rebooked it for October 3rd, and they've asked me again, can you go? And I said yes. So I have to learn, the charts are not, I've played charts like that are in that movie before, but there's a drum solo in that, and I don't want to ruin the film for people if they haven't seen it, but it's an important part of the film when there's an open 3 or 4 minute drum solo. It's where it's just so climactic, and it's such a big part of the film. And they shot it really great that it's exciting looking and feeling. I won't say where that occurs in the film, but it's important. And it's an open drum solo that live, as you're seeing, the audience is watching the film on the screen, the big band of all South Korean musicians and me, and the composer, the credited composer for the film is Justin Hurwitz, who also did La La Land. La La Land.
Right.
He also did that. Justin and the same director. So he's going to go, and I'm going to go supposedly October 3rd to South Korea, and this will be the first time I'm performing Whiplash.
Wow!
In front of an audience there, and trying to play the open drum solo. That's very look what I can do, Mom, kind of a solo.
Right.
Along with the film, and try to sync it up with the film. Not just me. I've played tons of drum solos in my life, including with, the BBB. I have a solo at the end of both albums of Live in Bernin and also Bern, Bern, Bern. But now I've got to follow the picture.
Wow.
So I better learn it. But I'll see if we actually, what do you think, Eric? Am I going to go to South Korea in October?
I sure hope so. My schedule starts up in September, and so if that all happens, then you should be fine by October. Is that what you mean because of the pandemic? Or?
Yeah, like me getting on a plane. I think some countries, as you get on a plane now, if you go to another country, I could be wrong in this, but I thought I read somewhere, because I'm not worried about it. I'm not trying to get on a plane to another country right now, that you might have to be quarantined for 14 days before you're allowed to go anywhere once you get there.
Right.
So they're going to pay me to sit for 14 days in a hotel.
Right.
Maybe.
That could be fun.
I don't know. A hotel room for 14 days?
It sounds incredible.
And I'm supposed to play the baked potato. I mean, when this airs, it will have already happened. But I'm supposed to play the baked potato in 9 days, where they're having people come in. And instead of the 90 capacity, they're allowed to have 32 people in there.
Wow. Interesting.
And then they're going to put 12 people on an outdoor patio in the back with a large TV.
Oh, cool.
For a reduced cover charge, like instead of $15, $5.
Wow.
This is for Don Randy. I'm playing with Don Randy, the great,
cool. Yeah, Don Randy.
Historical.
And Quest.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, this is one of the first gigs I played when I came here, actually.
So from the Wrecking Crew. Yeah, Don Randy from the Wrecking Crew. And, but, they're going to people. I'm going to be playing for people again?
It's going to be amazing. Are you going to remember how to do it? I get nervous. I wake up in the middle of the night going, will I ever remember how to play in front of people? I don't know.
It'll be fine. It's easier than playing like the other night, playing with Brad with this duo, playing at the Sunspace in the club with no one there.
Yeah.
That's harder because after you finish a tune, here's what you hear. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's harder. I know.
It's harder.
Helped you.
Yeah. I actually did a Facebook Live from my studio here with Rudy Cardenas. And,
and
I
heard of him.
It was, a fine band leader.
Wasn't he in the band Bern?
He was in the band Bern. He was he was the high singer, I believe. You know him well. We all know him well. But anyway, it was very much that thing. Like, there's just no reaction. It's the weirdest feeling. And like, okay, next song then, I guess. It's so bizarre. You guys were pretty seamless because Brad liked to talk, it seemed. Like every little gap, he would jump in and talk about the next week or whatever. So that was kind of cool. But we were just like, it was just like silence and, okay, count the next one off.
Right. Well, because of that, because I saw some people do this, like with a band, not just by themselves. And I said to Brad, I go, let's just go segue tune to tune. I mean, we're percussion only and drums.
Right.
Do we even have to end a tune?
Right.
Right. Almost like the mentality of a wedding where don't stop the music, just go into the next tune.
Right.
Yeah. And make it artistic in that sense. And Brad goes, no, I want to talk a little, And so I honored his, meaning kind of his space where he plays and he books it. And he was taking my suggestions, but I was figuring he's kind of the leader in that sense. And so I go, oh, yeah, that's cool, because Brad's an interesting talker and goofy and, entertaining of his demeanor. So I go, okay, and that'll give us a chance since we're not playing all the time to get like the next chart up or whatever.
Right,
and by chart, I mean like 45 bars, meaning again, a minute, 30-minute of a 7-minute tune we're really improvising off of. Yeah.
Right. I thought it was funny that he had written out the Bones piece where he's playing Bones.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had actually charted out the Bones part.
Well, he did, but then again, it was a lot of improvising too.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting too because all this stuff about playing on stage, Brad and I are 4 feet apart and I could have a mask on and we're not spitting into a trumpet or whatever as we're blowing, we're breathing. But with my big band, people go, are you going to do that with the big band? But with 13 horns with the BBB featuring Bernie Dresel, a big band of 13 horns, I'm not talking just the spit valve falling to the floor, but them blowing, that's hard for us to play.
Yeah.
And 6 feet apart, 13 people, how many feet is that? Again, math comes up. 80 feet, in every direction. That the club's not.
You'd have to do it outside.
Or you see the Zoom style recordings that people do, and that's nice. But, eventually that's going to get old. Yeah, it's going to get old looking at 16 squares on the screen.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like playing right next to the person like Brad and I got to do. So I'm anxious to get my big band back playing in front of audiences again.
Yeah. But one thing that you can do is buy your records. You have 2 records with me featuring Bernie Dresel. And they're mixed in like 9.1 or 7.1.
All right.
Talk a little about.
Okay. So 2 albums, totally different from each other, not just because they're like, I want you to get both of them. But one of them was live, meaning we recorded 18 songs live in front of an audience one night. 2.5 hours later, the whole record is done other than mixing it. The second album was, okay, let's go in the studio. Let's do the actual tunes we're going to put on the album, 13 tunes, and record them in Capitol, Sunset Sound, and try to be creative with it. And take our time, and that cost more money and took more time. But they're both available in something called stereo.
Never heard of it.
We did not release them in mono.
Gotcha.
Although that would be interesting.
That would be
the
hip.
Beatles did it.
No one's doing that.
I
Keep you ahead
know,
of the
mono. Although with 16 people in the band, not to mention overdubs on the studio album, it sure is nice to have stereo to spread things, to be able to hear them coming at you from different places. That being said, we also mixed it on a different thing other than a CD or iTunes download. Not Spotify, not Apple Music, but iTunes download or CD stereo. We also mixed it in 5.1, meaning surround sound. Do you have surround sound speakers yet, meaning rear speakers in your home for your television to hear crickets coming out of the backyard?
I mean,
out of the backyard.
Yeah. I used to. I moved into a new house about a year and a half ago, and I don't have the situation. I haven't hooked it up yet because you got to run cables and I don't want to run them across the floor. So I used to have that all set up, but now since I've been in the new space, I haven't really done it yet.
We went under our floor. But Eric, I'm going to have to end this interview right now if you don't have surround sound. I'm sorry. Do you have it?
Then yes, I do. It's just sitting in a box right now, but I do have it.
No, you have it.
I'll set it up just to listen to your record. How about that?
So, but however, when you do surround sound, it won't fit on a CD or it can't be downloaded at iTunes. So it has to go on a Blu-ray, not just a DVD, a Blu-ray. So we released the album Burn, Burn, Burn and Live and Bernin on Blu-ray in 96K 24-bit, high resolution, high def, whatever you want to call it, stereo, but also a mix of 5.1 for people that took the time to hook up their back speakers.
Oh man, I'm on it.
And
man.
now
I gotta go. You hold on. I'm gonna go hook it up right now. I'll be back in a minute.
It takes a second. I'll wait.
It's easy.
5.1 is a circle around you. So when you have 13 horns and a rhythm section, you can now not only spread this into stereo in front of you, you can spread it around you, even behind you, like a line of people behind you. Now, let me add on too that most people would not even have this. We also mixed it in 9.1, which means someone that has Dolby Atmos 7.1 or 9.1, they have a vertical higher level of a plane circle that now becomes like an aquarium of sound, not just a singular plane circled around you, but also like in the front, you'd have the rhythm section in the front two speakers and the trumpets up higher and halfway between the bottom and top front speakers. Wow. So we now have height too, not to mention the horns being recorded with a mic directly on them and mics up higher above them in the room at Capitol to hear those reflections and a sense of, wow, they're right here in the room. I can hear the vertically too, the sound. Wow. So cool. That's on the Blu-ray. We also, not to mention vinyl, but that's my favorite release, to hear that in that high def 9624K and 5.1 or 9.1 surround, because now you can put extra guitar parts in the back behind you. We got a helicopter going over the top of you vertically. Wow. And The World is a Ghetto.
That's cool.
What's the name of the band? What's the name of the band? I'm blowing it. War. It's a 3/4 swing version of it. That's
cool.
Love
that.
So, wow. So now that we can do that on the studio album. In the live album, what you get in the surround is the reflections of the room, like you're at Joe's. Meaning, because you're not the band's in front of the audience, you're not going to suddenly put the trumpet behind you. It's in front of you. But the reflection of the room, the crowd, woo!
Right.
Oh, how come Eric Benny's not on bass? Those kind of things you hear in the audience on the record.
Right. And Joe's being a club in Burbank that you guys play at pretty often.
Yeah,
Or you
we
used to
play
play, and you
once a
will
month.
again.
Once a month.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly. They're not open now. Once a month, which in LA, have you ever played in a band that plays once a month in LA?
Yeah, actually, when I first got
Who
here,
was it?
I used to play with a guy named Mike Geeler, who's a smooth jazz saxophone player. He used to play at the warehouse in Marina Del Rey, like every first
I remember
Saturday
that.
of the month. Yeah.
I play with Kenny James there on a Wednesday. I think he has Wednesday.
Yeah,
I wasn't a regular guy. I played once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a
Star
cool
Search winner, Kenny James. Do you remember him?
I do actually.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of if I ever met him. I don't think so, but I definitely know of him.
Good cat, good singer.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And Ed McMahon liked him, I guess.
Yeah, actually. Well, this has been totally awesome, man. The time is flown by, and
Is it over?
Well, we're like an hour and 15 in, and I think
it seems like we just talked 10 minutes. I could talk to you forever.
Eric. Let's do part 2 some other time, because I still have like a million questions. And
ask me one more question. One more quick question. Favorite food?
Actually, my question is for you. Do you feel like you've made it?
Looks like we made it.
or do you still feel like it's a struggle every day to get going? Like when someone looks at a career like you think, well, this guy's got it made. He's the top call guy. He's made it, he's just, or is it always like I'm unemployed and I'm looking for that next gig?
Right now it feels like I'm unemployed, but always you don't feel like you don't take it for granted, but you feel like, okay, I hope it keeps coming in like it does, but it can all stop, it has now for extreme reasons. But but it's like my brother has a 4 or 5 day a week gig with Jimmy Kimmel. For 15 years, no, 17 years now.
Wow, yeah.
So when he first got that gig, I said, Jonathan, you're going to have this gig for 20 years. He's going, oh, I don't know. They're considering if they're going to pick us up or not. And that would be a thing after 1 year, after 3 years, after 5 years. Yeah. And here they are aiming for 20. And but eventually his gig will end.
Right. Yeah.
And then, so people that have a steady gig, whether it's working at Walmart or Tesla, they have a steady gig, and that's very comforting, except if their gig ended. Then it's suddenly from 100% employment down to 0. So musicians, we do have that it's tough, unless you have a steady gig, like my brother, you're always got your hand in different cookie jars. So you don't really go to 0 because there's something else, other ball that might be juggling or bouncing. But that's the good thing. But the other thing is, like, yes, it's not a regular gig. So you go, wow, this month was slow. I used to add up my money every month. I'm looking at the week. Okay, this. Then I finally stopped doing it and just go, it's going to come in. Right. Or like right now, it's going to start again.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah. They will call again.
Yeah.
And maybe it won't be as much, or maybe it will be even more.
Right.
And it's never the same. So that's the, for me as a freelance player, and any freelance players out there know, it's never the same. It's always changing for the worse or the better, month to month, year to year. And just, it's just it's a bumpy ride, but that's good too. It's like, we don't get bored. That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you realize it, but you're sort of been a mentor to me. Like, I think I don't know. For some reason, I feel like I don't even remember how I met you or when we first played together, but I just feel like we hit it off in a weird older brother, younger brother way. And you've taught me a whole lot over the years, and I really appreciate it. And I don't know why I got on that, but it's just.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm just sorry I failed so miserably.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that you're the drummer on my title on my opening track.
I know, it's one of my biggest credits.
Well, thanks so much, man.
Very good.
Say hi to the wife.
Okay.
And have a great night, man. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. Very good.
I'm a dive bar rock star.
Man, that guy is a riot. What a total blast that was. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And so many things to learn from this conversation, in my opinion. I loved when he talked about getting the Brian Setzer gig, and he did something that not enough people do. And right now, we have the internet at our disposal and YouTube and so many ways to research people. Do the research. If you even think you're going to get the call, you've got an audition, show up, spend some time on the internet and research the artist and their music so that when you walk in there, you have a really full, big picture of what you're going to do, both musically and personality wise. And I think it's amazing how far that will get you as far as getting a gig. And he not only researched the music, there was a drummer that had the gig before him, but he did a little more research and he went into the rockabilly thing a little farther and brought that to the table. And then later on with his look and, changing his hair and changing his shirts and wearing glasses. It's all really subtle stuff, but it's really important and it makes a huge difference. Also, I love that when he talked about it being a bumpy ride, but we don't get bored. Because I think that's really what you gotta know that you're getting into as a musician. There's very few guys that get that one gig that pays all their bills and then they have it for 20 years. And it's getting rarer and rarer. More rare. I don't know. Is rarer a word? I don't know. I'm going to look that up and I'll correct it in another episode. But anyway, something to think about when you're considering whether you want to do this for a living. I also thought it was funny that, I've talked about on other shows, just names. Musicians like to sit around and just talk about names. And I couldn't even keep up with all the names he was doing. We kind of get into this language of names. But when you listen to the stories of how did you get that gig, because people ask me that all the time, well, how did you get that gig? And how did you get this gig? Well, he just laid it out how it kind of works. It's really about that language of names and who you know and who you've done gigs with. And this person talked to this person, talked to that person. And it's just about being out there and being great every time that you play and play as much as you possibly can, I'll even go as far as if I'm playing with a new band in town and I know who's going to be on it, but I've never played with them before. I'll Google local players. It doesn't have to be a big name artist, but just to know other people's credits and what other worlds that they exist in besides the music that we were going to play on any given night. And it helps you to get to know people. People feel respected when you know about them. So, if you're going to play with me, you've probably been Googled. Just a couple of things to clarify. Juilliard is a private college. It's its own thing. Eastman School of Music, where Bernie went, is part of Rochester University and a very respected school, obviously, as well. Impulse is a wedding band that me and Bernie played in, and weddings and corporate gigs in California are called casuals. So in case you didn't know what that meant, that's what we call them here. Also, if you're going to South Korea right now, it does require a 14-day quarantine for any foreign travelers coming into the country. And it's a quarantine at a government facility, so probably not a hotel. Probably would not be fun. And who knows what it'll look like by the time Bernie needs to go over there in October. But and you will have much higher security coming home. And you can only fly into certain airports right now. And you may be subject to a 14-day quarantine when you get here. The CDC recommends right now no international travel at all, but that's just a recommendation. So I hope you had a really good time, and I hope you learned some stuff, because I know I did.
I'm a dive bar rock star.
Wow, you've made it to the end. I'm hoping it's because you completely enjoyed yourself and are now filled with knowledge and inspiration to move forward with your dreams. If that is the case, and you would like to stay informed of new episodes, live events, and general news, please go to divebarrockstar.com and sign up for the mailing list. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, or complaints about anything you hear on the show, please email me at fanmail@divebarrockstar.com, and you may even end up on the show. We at the Dive Bar Rockstar podcast, with all of our hearts, thank you for listening, and remember, it's all about dreams.